What is hovering? Hovering is the state of prolonging your airtime. Whenever you're in the air, you are able to use these what are called hover frames, as shown on the left here, to extend your time in the air. Now, I might have just said jargon, but let's start with an intuitive example. Jumping. Now, we know that as you press the A button, you do a small jump, and if you hold the A button for longer, you stay longer in the air, and you do a high jump. Great, awesome. This is dictated by the hover frames. How long you hold the A button for when you jump decides how long you stay in the air for. There is a limit of 60 frames you can actively hover, and once it goes past 60, then you start falling down, and the A button no longer has an impact on anything. With that knowledge, you can do some pretty wacky stuff. If I were to do a small jump, and then do a pause hover, which is basically doing a pause and then pressing A to get rid of the start menu, I can use my hover frames without having to hold the A button in midair. And that can allow me to do some wacky stuff, like essentially float in midair. You can kind of consider it to be a low gravity-ish extension, where as you're holding the A button, your rate of descent decreases significantly until you max out the hover frame counter. If you want to get a feel for hover frames in reality, I would highly recommend messing around with these pause buffered hovers, because I feel like it gets an intuitive sense of what you're actually doing. Hover frames are refreshed anytime you press the jump button, and they will not refresh unless you either jump again or, hold the A button while continually being in the air, so not in the standing state, until it overflows, but that doesn't matter. Basically, anytime you jump, you will reset the hover frame counter, and you can do that jump anywhere. If you ever see someone do a jump cancel, where they seemingly may not have had to, that's likely the reason behind it. It's a good way to refresh hover frames immediately for whatever is coming next. In this case, it would be the spin dash hover. Have you ever seen this trick in Speed Highway? I imagine most people who started tried doing that without really thinking about it and couldn't make the distance at all. That's because of the spin dash hover. You can basically hold the spin dash button and hold the A button as well, such that when you fly off a ledge, you immediately activate those hover frames as such. And that allows you to prolong your airtime while also maintaining the benefit of a spin dash off a ledge, i.e. like a spin dash jump, but you can go farther with it. It's really quite useful tech to know. In order to actually do a spin dash hover, you'll have to make sure you refresh your hover frames. Otherwise, it just won't work as such here, where I basically didn't prolong my airtime at all. However, if I were to do the same thing, except refresh my hover frames by doing a tap jump or a jump cancel of some kind, then I go much farther. Spin dash hovering is the bread and butter of Sonic movement. If you ever want to make it across a large distance and spin dash jumping isn't enough, then spin dash hovering is the answer. Hover frames are also generally useful for other things, like the fast strat in Speed Highway, where you do a spin dash off a building and then hover for a prolonged period of time. Hover frames are a fundamental mechanic to understand, and I hope this video helps in understanding that.